Pro tip: if you're having trouble keeping your pages together when you're reading Conquest or Mortal Realms, just get yourself a little bulldog clip it on the spine, and then hey presto, no separated pages. Magical. Anyway, it's time to take a look through the pages of issue 7 of Mortal Realms. But before we go any further, I want to give a massive shout out and a massive thank you to Eddie, aka Brain Spider on YouTube, for sponsoring this week's video. Now, he didn't actually do it through Patreon, he did it through PayPal. He contacted me via my Facebook page, Big Mac Down School. You can give it a like if you like. And yeah, he contacted me through there and said he wanted to help support the channel, but his Patreon was playing up, so what's my PayPal? And he sent me £10, so that covers the cost of one magazine and a little bit more on top. Thank you very much. Cannot thank you enough. And I'm really grateful for the amount of support I've had recently. Someone's even upped the pledge for next month, so they'll be sponsoring 2 videos instead of just 1. It's unbelievable all the support that I've had from a select number of individuals. If you'd like to help out the channel and pledge $1, $5, $12, whatever level you feel comfortable pledging at, then you can follow the link to my Patreon in the description below. I'll try and pin one as a comment as well. And yeah, that's about it. And if you don't have a Patreon and you don't want to set one up, you want to support the channel through PayPal, feel free to contact me via my Facebook page or bigmacdanscott@gmail.com, and then we can have a chat there, see how you can support the channel. Anyway, on to the contents of this week's magazine, Mortal Realms. We get 2 paints in this issue. Now, the paints, I've completely forgotten to check the prices of the paints, but I think the shades are all like £3.75, and the just standard paints, the base paints, which I think is what Stormhost Silver is, the paint that we get, pretty sure they're £2.75. So we're looking at a value of, quick maths, £6.50. So, if it is a value of £6.50, then the magazine cost £1.50 more than that. However, it's very lore-rich, this issue of Conquest, and we're learning new painting techniques. So, is it really that low value? You get the £1.50 for a decent bit of content like this. I'd say that's well worth it. Anyway, on to the front cover. What do we get? Discover more Stormhosts. Learn how to use shape paints and new rules to play through. So, turning to the first page, we get Stormhosts. We get lots of heavenly hosts. For every Stormhost has bled in the service of Sigmar. Some have established themselves as legends and are well known and revered by the mortals they fight to protect. Others are newly forged, keen to make their name by battling the enemies of Sigmar with hammer and spell. Regardless of the colours they wear, these mighty warriors stand ready to fight the enemies of order, wherever they might be. So, I'll just run through all of these here. We've got the Sigmarite Brotherhood with the white armour, purple shoulder pad, and a lion on the other shoulder pad. They're recruited from the metallic lands of Shaman. The Stormhost is known for its ever-advancing shield wall and strict discipline of its infantry. We've got the Lions of Sigmar. Very little is known of the Lions of Sigmar. Stories tell of the thunderous roar of their battle cry has heralded many victories over the forces of chaos. We've got the Blades of Dawn with the silver armour, purple shoulder pad and shield. There's a lot of purple in these on this page here, isn't there? Blades of Dawn are proud Stormhosts. They come from fierce coastal tribes across the realms and have proven to be expert seafarers. And we've got the Knights of Azir in there, sort of midnight blue armour with the cream or white shoulder pads and shields. The Knights of Azir believe that they should know their prey as well as themselves. This knowledge of their foes often means that they have won the battle before blades are drawn. Couldn't get that one out there. Then we've got the Celestial Vindicators, one of my favourite colour schemes for Stormhost. They've got sort of a tealy turquoise armour. They've got red robes and patrigues. Is it patrigues? The sort of leather skirts that dangle down. But yeah, they've got this lovely tealy turquoise armour, and then they've got like creamy sort of shoulder pads. Celestial Vindicators are vengeance given form. To see them fight is to witness a hurricane of Sigmarite descend upon their foes. Turning to the next page, it gives you a little bit more information about the Celestial Vindicators. They're known to fight with terrifying fury, tearing their foes apart. Although they are all organised in a similar fashion with the same basic structure, there are many differences between each storm host. The Hammers of Sigmar are well known to have very large extremis chambers, and their lords were the first to create a bond between man and Dracoth. The Anvils of Heldenhammer have many relicta temples known as Black Sepulchres. The Astral Templars field many monster-slaying paladins in their exemplar chambers and rely upon mounted warriors of their vanguard chambers. And the differences aren't just between the storm hosts, they go right down into the chambers as well, in various ways. On to the next page, we get more about Stormcast Eternals, Rites of Reforging. This is a nice little bit of information. It talks about the Rites of Reforging, and it reminds us how each time a warrior is slain in battle and their soul returns to Azir, they are reforged. And there's sort of hymns going off in the background, and the hammer strikes. Wait a minute, I think I'm getting ahead of myself here, you know. I think that's actually, that's actually a bit further on in the magazine, the bit I'm talking about there. But these 2 pages here cover the Rites of Reforging and give us an idea of what happens when the reforging occurs and what the warrior comes back like. So, taking a closer look at Garrus Dreadblade, the Celestial Vindicators rely upon furious assaults to win the day. The warriors charge into battle with little thought for their own safety. This strategy is often effective, but leads to many casualties. Garrus Direblade has died no less than 5 times in the service to Sigmar. With each death, his fury has only grown and his recklessness in battle has increased with it. So he sort of seeks out death each time he returns. He's got that hunger to get back into battle and die again. And is it like an addiction? That's the first, it's just occurred to me that it could be like an addiction. But yeah, with each reforging, his sunken eyes and battle-scarred face are twisted further by anger that boils within his soul. He speaks rarely, only finding his voice in combat where his guttural battle cries can be heard above the furious din of battle. So the more reforgings you have, the less of you is left, the less of your personality. If you're jovial when you're in your first life, after you reforge, you're slightly less jovial, more serious, more angry, more likely, more quick to rage, and so on and so forth, and you're more likely to rush headlong into the enemy lines to try and find your fate anew. On to the next page, we get the Realms, the Age of Chaos. After Sigmar's defeat at the Battle of Burning Skies, the force of chaos spread rapidly across the realm. As the centuries passed, the lands twisted into terrifying new forms while under their power. And it goes on to the next page to talk about Azerheim, the last bastion of order. Azerheim was the only one of the Mortal Realm's great cities to survive the Age of Chaos. When the gates of Azir were sealed, it became the last remaining bastion of order. Survivors from across the realms fled to the city in desperation. Despite several attempts, the Dark Gods of Chaos had been unable to establish any footholds in the realm of Azir. So after the Battle of Burning Skies and Sigmar's defeat, Chaos basically ruled over all of the realms, and apart from Azerheim, the city of Sigmar, where the gates were sealed. But there were still a lot of mortals outside, at large in the realms, and these mortals had decisions to make. They could either try and fight and sort of live their traditional way of life and continue to worship Sigmar or to pledge allegiance to Sigmar, or they could join forces with Chaos, join the Chaos war bands and give themselves over to Chaos worship and join the ranks of Chaos basically. And those that fought, many of them were tortured and slaughtered, but Sigmar had to close the gates of Azir and sort of abandon those people, which makes Sigmar seem like a bit of a nasty pasty to me. Yeah, so, but he had a decision to make. You've got to be pragmatic in those sorts of situations. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So, you could argue it's not necessarily a bad thing that he did that, but then again, you could argue that he does what it takes to survive, basically. On to the next page, we get Nagash. Nagash is a truly ancient being of incredible necromantic might. He is a jealous god of the dead. I would dispute that. Jealous god of the dead. He's just god of the dead. He's not jealous. He is clad in hideous ancient armour and wreathed in soul-splitting energies. To look upon his towering skeletal form is to know certainty of death and the pointlessness of hope. And over the course of those 2 pages, it talks about the seat of Nagashazar, which was once the fortress mountain of Nagash's home, that Nagash called home rather. It was destroyed by the forces of chaos in a brutal siege. Nagashazar later became the foundation of the obsidian pyramid at the heart of Nagash's realm and the seat of his power. What else does it say in this? Nagash takes to the field of battle. He towers above his armies. For countless thousand years, Nagash has haunted the mortal realms, plotting the illumination of life and the expansion of his undead kingdom. Nagash claims all of Shaiish as his own domain, but the centre of his power is Nagashazar, as I said, a dark shadow-shrouded tomb city that echoes with the wails of tortured souls. Here, the great necromancer feeds upon the gods of the afterlife, slowly consuming all of their power and growing ever stronger with each feast. Onto the next page, we get a short story here, Fury of the Reforged. It's a really cool short story. I definitely recommend, even if you don't normally read through the pages of the magazine, you just buy it for the miniatures and the paints and stuff. I definitely recommend taking a read of this short story, The Realm's Fury of the Reforged. It covers Varanith, I'm sure it says his name somewhere, his full name, but it covers a Stormcast called Varanith and how he was reforged and the pain he goes through in the process of the reforging and the non-existence that he suffers, and then he comes back into being. He's conscious before he's fully aware of his surroundings and stuff like that, and it's a really cool story that really gives you a good flavour, good rich flavour of the lore in Age of Sigmar and the lore around a reforging of a Stormcast Eternal. Onto the next page, we get how to paint shade and layer paints, and it talks us through shades and layer paints, and it talks us through some of the pitfalls of shade paints, which I find really useful, and some of the pitfalls of dry brushing as well, some of the dangers you might face, some of the problems you might encounter, let's say. So talking about the shade paints, you get shade tide marks sometimes, and it says to what a tide mark is you've got to work quick with shade paint. It's not ridiculously quick, but reasonably quick. If you put the miniature down and let the paint start to dry for like a minute or so, then when you come back to the miniature, if you run your brush across it, there's a chance that paint has started to dry, and then you'll leave like streak marks, brush marks in that shade paint. So to go back and repair that, what you want to do is get some thinned down Retributor armour, if that's the base paint you've used, and go back over that panel, that piece of armour, with the Retributor armour, or whatever paint, you might be painting a different miniature, but whatever paint is your base paint for that particular miniature. Wait for that to dry again and then reapply the shade paint. You don't need to thin down shade paints with water, you just apply them straight from the pot. And another problem to look out for is pooling. In some of the deepest recesses, you might get a bit of what they call pooling. Basically, it's what it sounds like. It's like a puddle of the shade forms within the recesses of the miniature. And if that dries in that recess and there's a fair bit of paint there, what tends to happen is you get a lot of clouding, and you don't want that. It doesn't look right on the miniature. What you want is a nice dark recessed area, not a white clouded recessed area. So if there's a load of paint in a recess, what you want to do is get yourself a dry brush and then just run it across that paint, and that brush will suck up the excess shade paint. Onto the Stormhost Silver, and it talks us through dry brushing, going over the Retributor armour paint, which we've applied to the Stormcasts already, with a dry brush, and it catches the edges to make it look like the edges are are being hit by light a lot more than the recesses are. And the danger with dry paint is that you don't wipe enough paint off of your brush, and if there's still too much paint on the brush when you start dry brushing, you'll get streaks of paint. And that can look quite good sometimes for like a battle damage sort of look, but it can look quite messy as well at times, and if you want to go back and just reapply another coat of Retributor armour, but again, thin your paint down to make sure you don't want to add too much texture to your model. Allow the model to remain as smooth as possible, because you're going to be putting more layers on it in the future probably as well. And then your models should look like this when they're done. And then we get the gaming section, Scouring the Tombs. So we're playing with the first battle map we got. We're not playing with the folded up battle map in this particular instance. We're just playing a nice combat scenario with the folded battle map. What's new in this tutorial then? Well, we're doing to wound rolls now. Instead of just to hit rolls, we're doing to wound rolls. So I'll talk you through the first stage of it. The Sequitors attack. They're already in combat with the chain rasps, so all they'll do is make a 3-inch pile and move in towards the nearest chain rasps. They can attack any chain rasp that they're in combat with, or that they're touching bases with rather, and they get 2 melee attacks. The hit roll, you roll your to hit rolls, so it's 6 dice you'll need for the 2 melee attacks of each Sequitor, and you need a 3+ to score a hit. But then also, you're not going to wound, just because you've hit something doesn't mean you're necessarily going to hurt it. So you need to make a to wound roll now as well. And the Sequitor's hammers, or whatever you'd call them, maces, they require a to wound roll of 3+ as well. So a hit roll of 3+, a to wound roll of 3+. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't very good at statistics in school, and also it's been 19 years since I left school. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that gives you basically a 44% chance with each attack to score a wound. So it's a pretty high chance of scoring a wound, it's almost 50%. But it's not as easy as it was without the to wound roll. The to wound roll makes it less likely that you'll score a wound. However, if you've got a lot of numbers of Sequitors and a lot of attacks, the more attacks you throw at a unit, the more likely you are to wound it. So if you're making 100 attacks, you're likely to get 44 wounds out of that, because you'll get 66 hits, and then 66% of those hits will then wound, giving you roughly, I think, 44% chance of wounding. I'm probably wrong. If you're a mathematician, just criticise me in the comments below. Don't criticise me actually, no, feel free to criticise me, yeah, of course. But educate me as well, because I need educating. I am useless. I used to be alright at maths, but then as soon as we got to GCSE maths and statistics, I was like, what's going on? So you think, why am I playing board games when a lot of people use what they call math hammer or maths hammer, as the correct English should be. Yeah, they use that to work out, before they've even charged with a particular unit, they'll work out the likelihood that they'll wipe out that unit in their head, and then therefore they'll either charge it with multiple units or with a single bigger unit. But anyway, onto the chain rasp section. It's pretty much the same, but instead of the to hit rolls and wound rolls of 3, you get in the to hit rolls and wound rolls of 4+. And you know, we've been through a few playthroughs now, so I'll just flick to the back page where the war scrolls have been updated for us, or at least 3 war scrolls have been updated for us. The Sequitors now have an updated war scroll with the box says a Storm Smite Maul, 2 dice, the attack's 2 dice, to hit 3+, to wound 3+, to damage, damage caused 1. And then the Chain Rasp Horde get 2 attacks, 4+ to hit, 4+ to wound, damage 1. The additional forces, the war scroll for the Murmorn Banshees is a Chill Dagger, attacks 1, to hit roll 4+, to wound roll 3+, so slightly better than the Chain Rasps. And then the damage is D3 as well, so despite the fact that they get fewer attacks, they have potential to cause a higher amount of damage. Anyway, what are we getting in next week's issue of Mortal Realms? We are getting the Celesta Ballistia. The Celesta Ballistia. Ballistia, and Cantor Blue paint. So the Cantor Blue paint's £2.75. The Ballistia is £15, I think, if I remember rightly. So it's a decent value issue. And then the following week, in issue 9 of Conquest, what are we getting? We're getting more Stormcast 2 weeks in a row. Stormcast, we're getting a unit of, a unit of 3 Sequitors and some Castigators as well with the bows. So that will give us a unit of 6 Sequitors altogether and 5 Castigators. So these must be some of the models, I suspect, from one of the starter sets, basically. Let me know in the comments below which starter set it's from, and yeah, we'll have a splendid time together. I'm going to leave it there for now. Don't forget, if you'd like to support the channel, you can either contact me through Facebook, which is Big Mac Dance School, the Facebook page. Give it a like, send me a message, or you can contact me through bigmacdanceschool@gmail.com, or alternatively, just follow the link to my Patreon in the description below and in the comments. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I will see you on the battlefield.